Hello, Mingalaba. This is Kenneth Wong, a Burmese-American writer and Burmese language instructor. I've seen some international students struggle with the different tones in Burmese. Some mistakes lead to smiles and giggles, nothing more. But here I'm going to discuss some cases where using the wrong tone could be highly embarrassing, might even be socially suicidal. Now, I cannot talk about this topic without uttering some Burmese words that are considered crude or vulgar, so please consider this my fair warning. In Burmese language tonal structure, a vowel sound can be pronounced three ways. Take a simple sound like Wahh, represented in writing by this perfect circle. If you pronounce Wahh with a short, abrupt N, like someone cut you off in the middle of your speech, it means fat, chubby, or full, as in I'm full, I can't eat any more. But if you pronounce Wahh with a longer, sustained vowel, you get the word for the color yellow. That is represented by the base letter Wah, the circle, plus the little pull down, a diacritic mark called yecha. Now, if you pronounce Wah in a high tone, as if you're hollering at someone or shouting, you get the word for bamboo or chewing. That is represented by the base letter Wah, the circle, plus the pull down, plus the two little dots, the diacritic mark called wisanalomba. I tell my students to think of those little two dots as spittle coming out of somebody's mouth. It's a good way to remember to raise your voice whenever you see those two little dots. So let's look at those three possible outcomes, shall we? Wah in a short, low cut-off tone, sometimes called the first tone, is fat, chubby, and full. Wah in a longer, sustained tone, sometimes called the second tone, is the color yellow. And Wah in a high, raised tone, sometimes called the third tone, is bamboo or chew. All three together, Wah, Wah, Wah. Now, if you make a mistake with these three tones, you might be saying I'm chewing instead of I'm full, or you might end up buying a bamboo instead of a yellow shirt. Nothing terrible. But let's look at a similar word written with another consonant. The word Phaa for frog is written just like the word for bamboo or chewing, except with the alphabet Phaa. Now remember the two dots? It's there, isn't it? So you have to remember that you have to raise your voice. So do it accordingly and pronounce Phaa. What happens if you don't? Well, then you end up pronouncing the word Phaa. In the written form, it is the alphabet Phaa with the pull down but without the two dots. In its meaning, it's something entirely different. Whereas Phaa, the raised voice, means frog, Phaa, the long vowel, means prostitute. So if you say Phaadwi, the chinsunide, you're saying the frogs are singing, a common phenomenon in the rainy season in Burma. On the other hand, if you mess up and say Phaadwi, the chinsunide, you are in fact saying the prostitutes are singing. Let's also take a look at the verb to drive, which is Maungg. Remember those two dots? That's why the word is pronounced in the high tone as Maungg, not mount in the short tone, not Maungg in the long tone. If you forget to raise your voice, you pronounce it as Maungg in the long vowel, and in the written form, that's like writing it without the two dots. You get the word that the Burmese girls often use to call their boyfriends, husbands, and spouses. A term of endearment. It's the equivalent of darling, honey, or lover. So if you're a woman, you're asking somebody to drive you somewhere, make sure you raise your voice and say Maungg. Don't, out of timidness or shyness, pronounce halfway as Maungg. Then you'll be calling somebody darling or honey or lover without realizing you're doing it. Let's look at another expression, a very useful one. That's lo jin de. It means to want something. It's a very useful phrase because you can use it with a lot of nouns. For instance, beer lo jin de. I want beer. Mohinga lo jin de. I want a plate of mohinga, fish chowder. Je lo jin de. I want je. I want water. And so on. Notice how this word, which is the lo in lojende, doesn't have the two dots. That's why it's pronounced with a long, level, sustained tone. If you made a mistake and raise your voice as if it is written with two dots, well then you'd actually be saying lojende, want to make love, and not in a polite way either. It's in fact like saying I want to F-U-C-K. Think about a phrase like nga lojende. Nga is the word for fish. pronounced with a high tone. So nga lojende is I want a fish, something you might say in a restaurant. The first person pronoun I is suppressed in this sentence. It's implied, but not stated. In Burmese, you can say a lot of things without explicitly stating the subject, especially in casual conversations. But what happens if you flip-flop the tones in the word nga and lo? Well, nga, pronounced with a long stretched out long vowel or a long tone, happens to be the first person pronoun I. So if you, instead of saying nga lojane, instead say nga lojane, you would be saying I want to make love. I want to F-U-C-K. Now imagine you're saying you want a frog. The correct way to say it is Phaa lojende. But if you make a mistake once more and flip-flop the tones between Pa and Lo, and if you end up saying Phaa lojende, well, I think you guess what it means. It's the kind of services you'd have to seek in the red light district in Rangoon. I hope these examples show you why it's important to use the right tone in Burmese. Until next time, this is Kenneth Wong saying, Nang ma tui me. See you later.